some of the industries we work with, the fire service, for example, I would imagine that the medical industry would look this way. And in many of the corporate engagements that we've had, people will say when mistakes are made, it has catastrophic results. When somebody makes a mistake and somebody gets hurt, somebody could die, or a mistake could cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. How do you respond to that? How do you respond to that notion that it has to be a zero mistake environment?
Well, there are mistakes that are very, very costly where the stakes are very high, and we want to try to minimize those mistakes. Whether we're performing surgery on a patient, or we are in a firefighting team and we're going into a situation that is a house on fire. We want to do the best we can to try to minimize mistakes, to try to save as much as we can and save life and make sure that nobody dies, to the best of our abilities. So those are high stakes situations where we want to focus on our performance zone. We want to, while we are performing, while we are on the ground, right? When we're in a mission, that is high stakes, we want to, if we can, sometimes we have no choice but to take a risk. There's too much unknown, and there isn't a safe and true path. We need to take a risk whether we like it or not. But sometimes the conditions are known, we have prepared for this, and we know how to do this, we have a lot of skill. We want to put those skills to try to minimize mistakes, and those are what I call like high stakes mistakes. We want to do our best to try to minimize those. But if that's all we do, and sometimes that's what happens, right? If we think that every day, all day is a high stakes situation where we just want to keep doing the same thing in the same way, then we stagnate, right? We don't improve if we're not changing. And in fact, we're probably getting a little bit less effective because the world has changed. The world changes. So if we don't change, we don't even stay as effective. So we need to identify what are the low stakes, situations where we can work on improvement in order to prepare for those high stakes situations, right? So, for example, cardiologists need to be able to hear heart sounds and be able to diagnose those heart sounds. But if they focus only on performing, on diagnosing patients and making an assessment and prescribing something, what happens is over time, they forget some of those infrequent sounds and they become less effective at diagnosing those sounds. And so if they spend, every couple of months, just a couple day workshop, or even just a little bit of practice around diagnosing sounds from a database that is already it is verified. So those sounds, you say this sounds like this type of heart condition, and then you get immediate feedback on what heart condition it was, so you can see and check yourself. Then you can, that's a very quick and easy way for you to continue performing during those high stakes situations, which is the time with patients. Or in firefighting teams, there are times when you're not actually in a fire, so you might be focused on practice, whether there's different drills or using virtual reality. Virtual reality is something quarterbacks do as well, so you won't be doing this during a game, but when you're training, you might be using virtual reality to practice making decisions and then talking about those decisions with your coach. So thinking about what are the times and spaces where we want to minimize mistakes, but also what are the times and spaces where we want to focus on improvement. And then there's the experimentation, right? If we want to try new things, we have hypothesis of something that might work better, we run an experiment. And when we're running an experiment, something that we haven't done before, usually something is going to, sometimes the experiment is going to prove our hypothesis true, but sometimes it's going to prove it wrong and we're going to learn something else. So that's failure. That is what Amy Anderson calls intelligent failure, right? Where we're making an experiment in a situation where we're not going to create a lot of damage, but we're doing it to improve so that during those high stakes situations, we're going to be able to perform more better.
Wow.